for our city. This is the FC Buffalo Show on 91.3 FM WBNY. We take a look back at the week that was in Blitzer soccer, preview the upcoming week of action, and chat with the personnel from Buffalo's only professional soccer team. Now, live from the WBNY studio, here's your host, Joe DiBiase.
Hey, this is Ben Tsujimoto filling in for Joe DiBiase. He'll be with us in just a little bit, but we have two guests here to also join the discussion, and they are Bobby Roach, who is the assistant coach of FC Buffalo, and Scott Frauenhofer, who is the co-owner of FC Buffalo. Both these guys have been on the show before. Both of them have plenty of good insight and quite a bit of humor to add.
I welcome all challengers.
How are you guys doing? It seemed like a good weekend. It was definitely a good weekend for you guys. Friday, 3-0 win over Lansing. Sunday.
It was a beautiful weekend. I need a cold shower and a cigarette.
And a 2-1 win over Fort Pitt on the road on Sunday. Scott, any further insights on how you're feeling today?
I'm going to toss that over to Bobby.
I don't know how I follow that one. Great weekend. Great weekend for sure. 6-point weekends for us are the best, and especially at this time of the year, it's exactly what we needed. It was our goal, and we took care of business Friday against a pretty good Lansing team, although they're faltering a bit now. I think we put the nail in the coffin for them. And then yesterday, Fort Pitt was was an interesting match for us. They gave us they were a handful, but to come away with 3 points there was good as well.
Anytime you can score 26 seconds into a game like you did on Friday, it seems to put you in a very nice position for the rest of the way. Talk about what kind of a difference that made.
It was huge. The only disappointing part was that my son was at the front gate and didn't get to see the goal, so he had a lot of questions for me. I had to pull up your YouTube call of the goal for him to make sure he understood what was going on. I just said number 9 scored. I can't even say his name, so we'll leave it at that. But yeah, 26 seconds? 26 seconds in is brilliant. Guess really worked hard, shedding defenders and, bodying guys off the ball. And then I guess what Guess is showing everybody is that this is the kind of number 9 that you need in this league if you're going to make any headway. He's a big lad, but when he has an opportunity, he's going to score. It's the bottom line.
We've seen Guess surprise teams, it seems. It seemed like he caught Erie by surprise. They weren't ready for what hit him. And then, in the first minute against Lansing, he shoves a center back off the ball, and not a small center back either. Yeah. Gets it on goal, and it's a pretty tidy finish. Yeah. There's not a whole lot of scouting in the NPSL, so I feel like Guess is a guy who's going to be able to kind of surprise teams the rest of the way out as well.
Yeah, we're hoping. Obviously, he wasn't available for the match against Cleveland, so they'll probably not really be expecting a dominant force up front like he is. There are other teams. Detroit City will do their homework for sure if we get them in the playoffs at some point, and hopefully we'll have that opportunity. But sure, I think he's a nice little addition to have for the game Friday night, which has some major playoff implications.
Scott, you've got to spend probably some time in a car or a bus, or at least traveling with Guess. What can you tell me about him just as a person fitting into the fabric of the team, especially joining later on?
He fits right in. He's come in. He's joined the team. He's big on family, and he's adopted us, and we've adopted him as our family right away. He's a quality quality guy in the room. He's always cracking people up. He's cracking me up. He's cracking Nick up. He's cracking his teammates up. He's always got jokes, but he's not shy. He dove right in. He's as happy to be here as we are happy to have him.
Mm-hmm. That's Gwes Albangwasi, who they're talking about. He's played now 3 games for FC Buffalo. He's scored a goal in 2 of them, one against Lansing on Friday and one against Fort Pitt on Sunday. He's trained with the Rhinos for most of the year. So what's the situation with that? He's been training with them, and he's but not under contract with them?
Right. He's a Rochester guy, so when he finished school, he was still in town. I can't speak specifically for the Rhinos and what their game plan is, but, it's nice to have, and we can speak to it. It's just nice to have depth. It's nice to have options. So he's been around. He's been getting training at the highest quality level. When Scott Doney went down with an injury and we were looking for, some more options at forward, we started making some phone calls, exploring all our options. And Nick had made a call to Bob Lilly down the 90 at Rochester and said, hey, do you have anybody? And he said, yeah, I've got just the guy for you. You got to see him. And we had seen him. He was just playing at an outside back position when we scrimmaged the Rhinos. So we didn't see him in, I'm going to say, his natural environment. But, yeah, he's come in. He's been great.
The second goal against Lansing, Brett LaRocque on a nice header, a good service by Connor Willings, who I think has been one of the more underrated, unheralded players on FC Buffalo this year. But I want to talk about LaRocque. The guy just keeps scoring goals, and he's put in a position where he's sort of relied upon. He's the Giovanni Savarese kind of guy who can come in late in the game and poach a goal, and he just takes advantage of whatever chance is given him. What has he done for the team this year?
Well, he's just a flat-out sniper. He has a skill set that is, it's nice to have on your team, especially in the role that we use with him, which is to bring him off the bench. Quite honestly, we had a debate yesterday, and Scott was involved in the discussion as well, because Brett's been so on fire lately. Definitely in form, scoring goals. We had a discussion, do we start him up top and bring Guess off the bench? And ultimately, we just arrived at the decision that if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Bring him off the bench, let him do his thing. I think Larry's strengths are coming off the bench and putting the other team under pressure because he's got a lot of pace. He's good in the air. He's strong. And he's just, he really has a nose for the goal. So we end up bringing him off the bench again, and that is not to discredit his ability or what he's doing. It's just a situation where we have a rotation right now that we like, and, it's worked for us, so we don't want to change too much. And, he didn't score yesterday, but he played well. He hit the goal post. We should have done better on the rebound of that. Just such a direct, pacey player that he gives other teams fits, really.
That's a tough one for Lansing, too, conceding a goal to a guy who's 5'7" on stilts probably, right? And, and a header, considering that on a corner kick, that's got to be tough for them.
And we've switched some of our direct kick stuff. Nanu Ferguson was on the ball a lot, but when Connor stepped up the last 2 weeks, he's been flying. There's a few guys who, obviously on this run, a lot of guys who have contributed, but we brought Connor Willings in to play a lot of different positions, be a depth guy who could step in and give us some quality minutes. He's found himself in the starting lineup lately. We can't necessarily take him out right now because he's flying. He had a great ball on that to LaRocque. Little fortunate for us that they couldn't find the smallest guy in the field, but he took it well. It was a great serve from Connor. And, I think that game ultimately was played right into our hands. We've been discussing it. If you want to play long ball against us, against guys like Slotmaker and McFadden and Lauco and now Willings back there, and eventually, this week we'll be looking at Kapik coming back in the mix as well, although he's not one of the bigger guys. You want to play long ball against those guys, you might as well just fold up shop and go back home because they ain't going to give up anything on that.
Scott, that third goal against Lansing, you're familiar with the guy who scored it pretty well. He's been with FC Buffalo for a very long time. What is it? You see Chris Walter proud of his yellow card sometimes, where he gets I think 17 in 41 games now, which is a pretty outstanding ratio. But
great stat, Ben.
Thank
great
you.
Stat.
Yeah. How does it look from your perspective to see when he steps in and gets a goal though? It's got to be gratifying.
It's absolutely gratifying. We're incredibly proud of him, even for his yellow cards. It's well earned all the time. But his goal was classy. I mean, he got in there doing exactly what we wanted to do, winning balls in the middle of the field. And, his first touch where he just dinked it right over the defender's foot and mixed in a soul roll to get the second defender. And then, when we saw himself in space, we're like, okay, Chris is going to kill this ball, hoping he puts it on frame. And he goes, no, left-footed, just slides it in. Wrong-footed the goalie, just cheeky little finish. We're proud of him. We're happy for him. I know goals are few and far between in his repertoire, so anytime he gets one, we're really happy for him. But he's an outstanding citizen for the team, and anytime he gets to add something special like that and celebrate with a ball boy, we're happy for him.
Yeah, the celebration was the goal was like maybe an 8.5 out of 10. The celebration was maybe a 4.5 I would give him on that. And also, you might be the only person who's ever said the sentence, Chris Walter is a great citizen.
Hey, there's a first time for everything. I mean, I didn't say a great citizen for Buffalo or a great citizen of the United States. I mean, for like FC Buffalo.
Yeah. Servant might be. That could work for us, too.
Chris, if you're listening, we love you.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people know about Chris off the field, and you guys have spent a lot of time with him over the years. How would you describe his character? I know you guys alluded
Unique.
You guys alluded to it a bit, but would you go a little bit more in depth on that?
He's listen. I'm joking with Scott a bit about Walter. No one. I think I don't want to exaggerate, but no one has more pride in that shirt than Chris Walter. He loves the club. He loves the chance to represent Buffalo. And he's going to go in to every match and basically play with his hair on fire. And you need guys like that on your team. You need grafters. You need grinders. He's one of those guys. The goal was a great skill. I don't want to take that away from him as well. But, if you're coming to a game, you're going to see Chris Walter winning headers, slide tackling people, getting under people's skin, maybe tackling a ball boy after a celebration, all of the above. But in terms of what he brings to our team, what he brings to our club, he is, the heart and soul of the team. And really, he's one of those guys the club, recognizes. Obviously, he does love to drop in that he's the all-time caps leader for FC Buffalo, as if you get a cap for being in the NPSL. But we let him go with that. He also looks wonderful in an American one-piece suit that he wears quite frequently to show his patriotism. So he also does not like Alexi Lawless, just as a side note for his criticism of the U.S. national team. Chris Walter is a great American, I think is what we're getting at here.
So moving over to Sunday. Sunday is a game that none of us were able to see because, well, when I say none of us, I mean everybody except for you guys in the team.
That's not entirely true. We had a few fans in attendance, so shout out to the Ferguson clan.
Yes.
Shout out to Emily Donahue. Thanks for coming in and supporting us, guys.
DPS Soccer traveling probably 650 miles yesterday to see their kids play, and actually, they've been to a ton of games on the road. The Ferguson family, and that's the support of the families is great. Support of the Situation Room is great, but yeah. Good showing for a long 500-mile trip in a day yesterday.
So you show up and it seems like you guys find pockets of support wherever you go. There's always somebody traveling along.
It's a Buffalo thing. You're never far from home.
You'll never walk alone.
I don't think that's a Buffalo thing.
Oh, okay.
So actually we should talk about Raheem Sterling at some point too, but we can leave that till
bring it. I'm ready.
much later on.
Sure.
So to go to the match on Sunday, getting Gues's goal, can you guys walk us through that? Because, I mean, we just could kind of only see what was tweeted, the majority of us.
Basically, and we've just been talking about him, Connor Willings made a great play in the midfield. He intercepted a ball, took a quick look up, and it was basically a counterattack goal. He slid Gues to the left. Gues was isolated. I dropped the shoulder and beat one guy real quick. Didn't have to do too much for that, though, because he had the angle. And very similar angle to his goal on Friday night. He just tucked it far post on the keeper who was coming out. We were excited about that. Fort Pitt came out pretty hard. They were flying. They were connecting. We were giving them a little too much of the game. It happened at a good time for us, of course. We then had a breakdown about 2 minutes later to give the game right back to them. But Willings made a nice play on the goal for Gues. And like I said, if Gues gets isolated, especially on an angle, like on the left wing cutting inside, it's similar to having Cicerone last year when he gets 1v1 on an isolation on a ball that gets switched. You might as well start driving, walking back to the half line because it's going to be in the back of the net.
Obviously Gues has made a pretty huge difference, but when you see Fort Pitt responding as they did, what is it about the couple minutes after a goal that really makes you vulnerable to conceding again? There's something there that you see a lot of goals in a hurry sometimes, and a lot of them go back and forth. What is it about soccer and the flow of a game that sort of lends itself to a team responding almost immediately?
Scott can talk about this with the history of the last couple years of the club, but I think yesterday was down to just a simple breakdown. As much as we transitioned on them to score our goal, they did the same to us. We had a breakdown. I think ultimately, though, it's just how you respond to these situations. And what this team has shown this year is character and heart. And a lot of that comes from leadership. Yesterday on the field, McFadden is out there. We were without Walter, who was usually a part of that, but BK was on the bench, who came in for the second half. Kendall, we've had a few guys, different guys, skipper the squad. Kendall did a good job with it yesterday. It was just one of those breakdowns, and so it happened early enough in the game where you have a chance to respond. And although we didn't, get one back until the 78th, right after their goal, Jabari got isolated. He ripped a shot. The rebound came right to Guess, and quite honestly, Guess should have done better. He put it right back into the keeper's hands. So in that scenario, it might have been 2-1 going into halftime with a team like Fort Pitt, who's got 2 wins but sort of plays like they have 12 wins. We might have broken them right there. So this year, the difference is just dealing with adversity, and I hate to simplify it this way and say it's good leadership, but it's also about talent. We have more talent than we have in the last 2 years. Good players who have played at high levels in college, who have played a lot of minutes, who have been there before. So we expect them to respond, quite honestly, especially this year. We've been down a few times and come back and either gotten draws or gotten wins, and so we expect it to happen, basically.
And it's depth, too, I think, in addition to talent.
Sure.
Now I would say you guys probably go 1 through 25 or 26, pretty comfortably, whereas in years past it'd be 1 through 18. And then after that, if guys couldn't travel, if injuries popped up, you were really sort of grasping at straws and trying to find ways to plug the holes. This year it seems like you really have people trying to just bust into the lineup. Like it's an achievement every week just to make the 18.
It is. We have... Nick, we were sort of joking around before the game. Nick had an old roster from a game last year, game that we won, but he pointed to 5 subs. We had 5 subs in the game. We won the game handedly, but the 5 subs who are on the bench for that game would probably be like our number 35 to 40 players this year. They would never come near a game for us, but they were subs in a pretty big game late in the year last year. So depth has been huge. We've had injuries. The good news on that is that McVeigh and Kapik will be in training tomorrow night, will be available for selection this weekend. It speaks to the depth that we have, that those 2 guys who are big players for us in the first 6 games have each missed the last 5 games, and we're 5-0 in that time. Or 4-0-1, something like that. We haven't lost a game. I mean, we've only lost 1 out of basically 13 or so. So yeah, the depth is huge. You said before about Guess, he replaced Doney. That's a big guy to replace in the middle, and other guys have stepped up when given opportunities.
As the time went along, as people were following Twitter feeds or so forth, it seemed like the tension was really building, and you're wondering, like, hey, is FC Buffalo gonna strike in these final, 45 minutes in the second half? And it seemed a little nervy for quite a while, for like a 30-minute stretch where you didn't. It was hard to get a feel of the game. It seemed like you guys were creating chances, but it's not like you were blowing a lot of sitters, So describe the atmosphere as you and Murph and so forth. We're going about that stretch.
Scott was on the bench too. He could speak to it as well. He's definitely,
we weren't losing that game. That was the attitude of the players. That was the attitude of the coaching staff. We knew. No offense to Fort Pitt and what they brought to the field yesterday, but the boys were switched on. Sure, one small mental error led to their goal, but after that, Andrew Coughlin made some big saves. Like you mentioned, the back 4, there was nothing going over the top of them. And Fort Pitt definitely deploys some strong physical fast guys up top, and our boys handled them. They went toe-to-toe with them. The guys off the bench made impacts right away. The bench is winning games for us these days. They're killing games. They're protecting 1-goal leads and adding to 1-goal leads, or coming off and setting up, goals 2 and 3. So it's huge. So we've kind of got this attitude about us right now that, teams are going to have to bring their best to beat us, and, we're happy to go toe-to-toe with anybody.
Yeah, to add to that, I think it was very, very calm on the bench. There was no panic, and that comes from the history of this season. That comes from knowing that we've clawed back into these games, knowing that we have match winners on the field, knowing that defensively we're pretty tidy. So it was calm. I mean, yes, 78th minute penalty, that was nice to get, to know that we had 12 minutes to kill to get the 3 points. But, when we're sitting there looking at like 60th minute, when you make some changes and you're looking to change the game a bit, still was pretty calm. Like, we're going to get a chance. We're going to convert the chance. There was a free kick that we did get on frame, that Kendall got on frame maybe 10 minutes before the goal, where it was just outside of the 18, and would have been maybe an opportunity to score there. That was very close to being a penalty, a foul in the box. I actually thought it was, but who knows? The distance was pretty tight, so we were very calm. Nothing to get too worried about. We figured they'd give us a chance, and they weren't too happy about the handball. But when you're practically catching the ball in the 18, I don't care if you're gonna say that it's unintentional. That's a penalty kick. So.
There's a flurry of activity there, right? There's a red card where a Fort Pitt player ended up kicking Andrew Coughlin. Is it in the ribs or something like that? It's just like 5 minutes and everything happened. The red, the goal, the PK, so forth.
Last 10 minutes, actually the red and all that, I think, happened in the 90th.
Oh, did it? It happened later.
Coughlin sort of bobbled the ball. He caught it. The kid came in late, gave him a little love tap, and it was good to see too. Fox, Kendall were on the scene fast. Lauco kind of trying to sort this kid out. Let him know that you can't do that to our keeper. And, red card, a few yellows came out of that for them. I don't know that the kid afterwards came up to us and said it wasn't malicious. He didn't really mean anything by it. He didn't catch Coughlin hard. We've been in a couple of games. I remember, ironically, a game in Cleveland a few years ago where Coughlin did get caught on one of those, and things started to pop off a bit. But at the end of the game, it was a little wild, much to the coaching staff of Fort Pitt's chagrin.
Leading to that PK, that was a Guest shot that hit someone's hand, right?
That was I think that was the second time around that Larock hit the post. Larock hit the far side post on a bad angle. He fooled the goalkeeper, and it hit on a rounded post on a weird spot. It came back across. The goalkeeper was down and out of position. There was just one defender in front. Guest hit settled, and when he took his hit, the defender turned his back, but as he turned his back, he threw both hands up in the air. And like Bobby said, he came real close to catching the ball. He swatted it down. Of course, there's plenty of argument from the Fort Pitt side, but it's too obvious. So referee made the right decision.
So I happened to see Kendall in a penalty shootout on the day before, on Thursday, and he tried a Panenka, which is basically when you chip the ball down the middle, assuming that the goalie's going to guess. It's really sort of a flashy thing, and it did not work out for him. So Kendall taking a penalty the day later, what did Kendall do with his penalty?
Ripped it.
Yeah, we were talking about it on the van ride home, and he said he was in a set position. The goalie was moving to Kendall's left before Kendall had really begun his approach, so he knew right away where he was going to put it, and he just smashed it home. The goalkeeper showed him a window of opportunity, and that's really all he needed. The thing about him taking PKs, though, we've seen him take a few in practice, just through, your 11v11, your 7v7 scrimmages, and, the coaching staff will throw in, hey, that's a foul, that's offside, just to get the players going from different restart positions. And Kendall's a guy that we want on the ball because he's confident every time he steps up to the spot, and that's definitely what you need taking a shot like that, is the confidence and knowing that, hey, I'm going to score no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
So the 2 wins on the weekend bring FC Buffalo to 3rd place in the table. The Madison 56ers with 25 points are at the top. I guess part of the knock on them is that they've played a very weak schedule. And, I mean, that's not really a knock on them because they've beaten the teams that are put in front of them. That 5-0 loss, I believe, to Detroit City FC, though, sort of speaks to maybe where they stand in relation to the other powerful clubs. But regardless, they have a good chance at hosting the NPSL tournament. In second with 23 points is Detroit City FC. They had a decent close to their, I believe, a 3-1 win over the Michigan Stars on Saturday night. So that puts them sitting pretty as far as the playoffs are concerned. So FC Buffalo in 3rd place with 22 points, just behind them, and AFC Cleveland in 4th place with 20, but with a game in hand. So it's 3 teams, in my mind, vying for 2 spots, and that's Indiana, AFC Cleveland, and FC Buffalo. And there's a whole set of different scenarios where you and Cleveland make the playoffs, even you and the Fire make the playoffs. But so much of it comes down to Friday night's game, 7 o'clock, Robert E. Rich, All-High Stadium. At this point, it must be nice to control your own destiny, knowing that if you win, you guys are going to the postseason.
Yeah, ironically, the last time I was here, Joe and Russ had sort of mentioned the idea of what will happen, or will you be okay with the last game of the season, your playoff lives being on the line against Cleveland. And that was probably 2 weeks ago, and I said, great, bring it. Like a one-off that could get us into the playoffs, I'll take that. I think people are excited about it. There has been Coach Murphy and I have just been pushing the idea of these sort of one-game championship finals, basically, that we needed, to haul off 5 or 6 wins in a row. We're pretty close to that right now, and we've put ourselves in the position to get into playoffs. We don't want a tie Friday night. We want 3 points that make sure that we're in, and really kind of who cares about everybody else. We did not play very well against Cleveland. In Cleveland, the last time we were there, we had some injuries. Obviously, Guest wasn't available. Dylan McVeigh wasn't available. Kapik wasn't available. So Cleveland's going to have their chest puffed out because they smoked Lansing the other day as well. And, it's going to be a battle. It's going to be awesome. It's just what you really want. Your last game of the season, the regular season, it matters. And, you want to beat a good team going into playoffs so that, you're flying at the right time. So we're excited about it. I'm expecting the boys to be buzzing this week, tomorrow night and Thursday morning as we prepare for Friday. And so, yeah, I'm really excited that this is a game where we can basically decide what happens going forward.
At the beginning of the month, I think one of the first training sessions that we had in July, we sat down with the boys at training. We told them, look, boys, there's 4 games left, 12 points left to go get. And the table was still kind of muddled then. There's a lot of teams still in the mix. There's a lot of scenarios still in play. And we knew we had a good shot at the playoffs, but, 12 out of 12 points, that guarantees us a spot. We knew this. And they've done their job. They've done their work. 9 out of 9 so far. So Cleveland's another big 3 points, and I think they're ready. The attitude driving home yesterday was world beaters. The guys are confident, but they're not cocky. And they're ready to take on anybody.
Scott, it's also Fan Appreciation Night on Friday. Is that correct?
Absolutely. We appreciate and love all our fans.
What does that mean? Is there anything special planned, or is it just sort of a
fireworks?
Fireworks, yeah.
Figuratively speaking, that is
right on the field. I don't think the school board would be too crazy about that. Although there's a joke between Ray Saminsky, another one of our owners, operating staff, and I, that we always talked about doing a promotion called the World's Worst Fireworks Show, where we set down a piece of plywood in the middle of the field and just throw off firecrackers and snaps and stuff like that. And, take a bow and walk away. But that's more tongue-in-cheek humor than an actual promotion.
But it would cost a lot of money with the staff that works our games.
Yeah,
too,
absolutely.
To clean up.
We'll have probably some announcements throughout the week about things that we're planning on doing. But yeah, just it's the last home game of the season. I shouldn't say that for sure. There's an outside possibility that we could be hosting the playoffs if, Madison doesn't take any more points in their final game. If Detroit loses 2 games and we beat Cleveland, there's an opportunity for us to host the playoffs. It's a slim margin. Never say never, but it's probably going to be our last home game this season. So we appreciate the opportunity for everyone to come out and wish the boys well on our trip to the playoffs or our quest for the playoffs, and really cheer us on.
Also, as a part of fan appreciation, and I don't know if we should be announcing this here, but
I'm okay with it.
It's
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
We've added a player. We've signed a big name player. We got him in before the transfer window. His name has been out there as a free agent. People have been talking about him coming back to America. But Freddie Adu is going to play for us Friday night against Cleveland. He's a secret weapon. He's to show the fans that we appreciate them. So
how old is he now?
He is 64 years old.
64.
Yeah.
That's deep.
Yeah.
He's fit though.
Yeah.
He's definitely fit. The 4th division
in Finland, maybe.
Yeah, they definitely have a strict no cigarette regimen, so he's
Yes.
doing well. He's on the come up.
So that's 7 p.m. Friday, FC Buffalo against AFC Cleveland. You may catch a Freddie Adu sighting, believe it or not. We'll be back just after the commercial with the second half of the FC Buffalo show.
FC Buffalo Soccer is on the air on 91.3 FM The Blitzers are on the road to play the Fort Pitt Regiment before coming home for their regular season finale against AFC Cleveland on July 17th. Opening kickoff is set for 7 p.m. at All High Stadium. FC Buffalo Soccer, sponsored by Rich Products Corporation and brought to you courtesy of 91.3 FM WBNY. FC Buffalo Soccer for our city.
All right, I'm here still with Scott Frauenhofer, the co-owner of FC Buffalo, and Bob Roach, the assistant coach of the Blitzers. And now that we've sort of gotten through everything that went on this past weekend, and as we said, the 7 p.m. matchup on Friday just being absolutely massive for FC Buffalo against AFC Cleveland, I want to touch on maybe one or two more questions on that, because that's basically that's on the forefront of FC Buffalo fans' minds right now. When you look back at that road match against AFC Cleveland, what are some of the memories that jump out to you? Maybe the quality of AFC Cleveland's side, a certain style that they play, maybe a certain player on AFC Cleveland. What's the quote-unquote scouting report?
The first thing that comes to my head is taking about 17 yellow cards. I mean, that particular game was, I think the right word would be anomaly.
Yep.
Like, I got one, and I'm not like a coach or a player, which was shocking to me, but I mean, kudos to the referee for doing that.
Running a tight ship.
Yeah.
They were, listen, it's Cleveland was probably the best side we played this year, quite honestly. They were a handful. They were aggressive. They were fast. They got in on tackles. They caught us on a night where we weren't our best for sure. But Menesio is a very good player. Vinny Bell, our guys tend to have some good banter about Vinny Bell, but Vinny Bell just scores goals and sets up goals and does his thing. The keeper from Ohio State is solid. They got some good players. We're definitely going to be in for a battle on Friday night, but they got a lot of pace and a lot of energy, but they're coming to our house. They're coming to our city on Friday night, and we're going to take it to them. We'll get stuck in all over the place, and we're not leaving Friday night without a playoff spot, that's for sure.
A couple of players to watch on that AFC Cleveland team. As Bob said, Sergio Menesio is one of the better strikers in the league, but recently he's been coming off the bench. I don't know if that's due to an injury or just the preference to have Vinny Bell play the first 50 or 60 minutes, but that tandem of having both Bell and Menesio is definitely a luxury for the first-year head coach Carter Poe, who's a former player for AFC Cleveland. But also, there's a lot of decent foreign talent surrounding him. We have Admir Suljevic, who's a player who was sort of on MLS's radar for a while, was another very strong, had a good Horizon League career. Derizic as well, he's a decent holding midfielder, guy who distributes very well, very calm on the ball. And as also Bob mentioned, Alex Ivanov, the keeper, who's right up there with Andrew Coughlin, I think, as the premier keeper in the league. So it's going to be a very good matchup. You look at Coughlin and Ivanov, you look at Gwes Abangwase and Vinny Bell and Menesio. You see, this is just like a beautiful script for heading into the final match of the season.
Guest should give their center backs Colton Long and Clay Anastasio. Guest should take them on. I think he can do a pretty good job handling them. We know Colton from Niagara, Anastasio's from Niagara as well, but I think Guest can take care of them pretty well, and we'll be in good shape.
So one fun little activity I think we'll do here is Scott obviously has a very long background into FC Buffalo. It goes all the way back to when you guys started in 2010, I believe. 2009, right?
The club was founded in 2009. Our first game was 2010.
2010.
Correct.
Yeah. So we've seen a lot of players come and go, and there's always a huge turnover in terms of rosters and players coming from all over the place. And now the fact that you guys are also able to host players brings an even more of a diverse core into the team. So we're going to do our best here to come up with an all-time FC Buffalo best 11. And it's not going to be easy for us. It's probably not going to be accurate because we'll undoubtedly forget some people. But it's a nice way to look back through the history of the club, appreciate some of the things that people have done, some of the achievements that people have accomplished over the years. So I think the thing that makes the most sense is just to start in the back with the goalkeepers. And I'll go through a couple of the keepers that we've seen in the blue and gold through the years. And that goes all the way back to Dan Pinero, who held a bunch of the records almost by default in the first couple of years. But he was also a pretty phenomenal goalie. He was a good shot stopper. Then after that, we had
no default. He earned all those.
No, that's true. No default. And Kareem Gray, who was a Canisius keeper, who was a very a flashy, outspoken guy who I thought was, I don't know. Yeah, it seemed like he added a lot to the locker room. I'm not sure. His play on the field was very up and very down. I remember he was terrific one match against Erie, basically stood on his head. Then there were other games that were a little shakier. Then we had Walid Cassis.
You're talking about that Erie away game?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember that. Kareem was out of his mind.
Mm-hmm. Then Walid Cassis, who's now playing professionally for the Ottawa Fury in the NASL, and then Andrew Coughlin, who's had 2 stints in 2013 and 2015. So when you guys look at the history of the keepers, Scott, you can start if you want. What stands out to you among those?
We've always had a talented bunch. I'll even reach back to our second season before he got injured. Pat Regna was great. He was a good shot stopper, a good distributor, and that's just something that we've been really lucky with. For my take, for an all-time best 11, if we can take 2 and build a roster, I'm going to take Panaro. Okay. Look,
this is not a best 18.
Well, okay, fine.
Oh, best keeper? We're looking best keeper. Huh?
I was trying to put together a roster.
Okay.
But just based on having the opportunity to have him for 2 seasons and seeing the turnaround, the maturity as a player and a person, I'm taking Andrew Coughlin. The difference between him in 2013 and 2015 is miles different. And, Andrew's always been a great guy, but just this season, I can't speak enough about his ability as a shot stopper, good distributor, good communicator. He gets the boys fired up, and we're just happy to have him back in the blue and gold.
Yeah, I'll go with Scotty there. I'm not too much to add, but I'm partial to Coughlin in the 2 out of the 3 years that I've had him. I've scouted him a lot at Canisius. Good goalie. He has another thing that is a big deal with keepers. He has the full confidence of the team that's in front of him, especially his back four. There's many discussions that occur with the back four unit, and they all are very confident when Coughlin's behind them.
Moving forward to the defense, it's interesting that Coughlin is unanimous between the two. But some defenders, and I won't be able to list all of them, obviously, but some of the ones who've stuck out from the past, Buana Johnson, I know is a guy that Scott has a ton of respect for. Kieran Gradwell is a guy all the way back when FC Buffalo changed ownership's hands. He played a role early on. Andy Laraquente, he definitely had a lot of caps for FC Buffalo, was a tough player before he got injured. Corey Phillips had some looks playing semi-professionally and also had a couple tryouts with pro clubs. Patrick Zelko, who was a fan favorite just because of his size, but his work rate was really good. And Jake Reno, another guy who's a fan favorite. So you have a pretty good crop of defenders, but the defense doesn't seem like it's ever been as good as it is now. And you see Lauco, you see Kendall McFadden, you see Bobby Ross, you see even Chris Walter, and I think it's a little bit too soon to say somebody like Capek's in there. But who do you look at in terms of your back four if you had to make one historically?
Three of mine, if I'm just looking at over time, Jake Reno's got to be in the mix. He's a warrior. Guy who would just he will literally run through a wall for a team. He's done it. I've seen it. That's why he has 7 concussions. Sorry, Jake. McFadden's got to be in it too. I think I spoke to Ben or someone recently about it. I was at a game where Kendall McFadden came from playing up front for FC Buffalo, had to drop in due to some red cards that the team received. This was before I was coaching, and he played center back basically with a 9-man team, and he was the best player on the field with 9 guys. I mean, 8 other players aside from him. It's, he might not like it, but it's where I got the idea to play him at center back. I think his athleticism is off the charts. His instincts in the air, he's phenomenal. And then just, longevity, Walter has to slide in there somewhere. Just the appearances, the quality, the tackles. I'd have those 3 guys in my back four. I'm a huge Lauco guy. But I look at those 3 guys as staples from the many years with the club. So the fourth, is sort of a toss-up.
Scott, so far Bobby has Chris Walter, Kendall McFadden, and Jake Reno. So would you agree with those 3? And if there was somebody that you'd add, I know you go a little bit farther back in FC Buffalo lore than Bobby does.
I like Kendall and Jake quite a bit. Jake was just a fantastic left back or left center back. He could slide in either position, be dominant. We only had him for brief bits and pieces last year, but Liam Callahan's a nice player.
Big time.
Reaching back a little farther, like you mentioned, for my 2 center backs, I will take Mbwana and Corey Phillips. Those guys were just ball winners, passing out of the back, good teammates, just fantastic players. Corey brought that offensive play from the position because he was a transformed forward, kind of like Kendall is. So those guys aren't afraid to get up the field and add into the mix. And I got to give him a shout out because he scored that game-winning goal in our first victory over Erie. I'm going to take Nick Garcia.
Ooh, Gark. Okay, that's a name I didn't even bring up. Bobby,
Garcia's class. The fourth for me, just on flat out, probably one of the 3 best players I've ever coached. My fourth would be Callahan. He is outstanding. He is like the prototypical player, put aside position, just his mentality, his athleticism, his understanding of the game. He is intrinsically motivated. He is a kid, I think. There'll be an announcement on the FC Buffalo website someday. Former player Liam Callahan is in the MLS or some professional league. He has those aspirations. He's just that good.
Also, just to throw it out there, the way the season's going and the way the story's still unfolding, this list could change next year because Fox and Lauco, I mean, those guys are men amongst boys pulling up trees out there this year. So, they're definitely on the bench for now.
No plonkers in the back for us.
Not at all.
Going up to the midfield, so it's crowded in there. It's really crowded in the all-time FC Buffalo midfield. The first name that jumps out to me is Dan Stevens. After that, I'd say Russ Cicerone, Josh Faga, BK, Mike Reedy, Richie Wilson, Ian Mort, Christian Witkowski, Ryan Walter, Chris Walter, but I think you guys have him as a defender. And even
I throw, if we're gonna go like we play now, kind of like a 4-2-3-1. My 2 sitting on top of the defense are Faga and Walter, and I wish we could have got to see those guys play together a little bit more. Unfortunately, Josh dealt with some injuries his second season here in Buffalo, but he's still one of my all-time favorite people and all-time favorite players.
I didn't coach him, but Mike Reedy is a phenomenal player. I saw him play in high school for I can't remember if it was Gates or wherever he went, and then had a great career at Colgate. I saw him play for FC Buffalo a number of times. some of the best feet I've ever seen. A little guy. He's a guy I saw in high school and just thought, like, wow, is this going to translate at the next level? He could dribble people. I saw him hit in a regional final game. I saw him hit a goal from probably 35 yards out, top corner, like it was nothing. He had a great career at Colgate. When I saw him play for FC Buffalo, it was dangerous. You isolated him. Reedy would be in my team. Cicerone would be in my team for sure. Those two guys just brought a different level of class, technical ability to the team.
Left and right, I'm going Stevens and Reedy. Dan was like our first guy that made it, but he was just such a class player too. He played with Brian Knapp in high school, who I'm going to put in the 10 position. Shout out to BK. I see you.
Yep.
Those two played in high school together, and Brian still speaks glowingly of Dan, just the best feat he's ever seen, and Dan did special things for us, especially he was only here for 1 year, but that year, he did quite a bit, and he's just a special player and a great guy, and he's still enjoying a career over in Finland, and we're proud to say that he wore our shirt. And then just to round it out, I'll use Russ as a forward. Cicerone can be my guy up top.
Running through some of the other forward names we've seen in the past, Asani Samuels, who's playing with the Rochester Rhinos now, Matt Stedman, a guy who's played overseas in Ireland, Andy Teat, who was a longtime fixture with the club, Alex Danger Rouse, only brought up because of his nickname, and Mike Unwin, who is also a fan favorite, a guy who is a definitely
Mike Unwin would put himself in that team.
Wore the shirt with pride.
You know what? Sorry, Russ. I know you're a very talented player. You just got dropped to the bench. I'm taking Unwin just because Unwin is that dude. Mike Unwin's he's another all-time great. Another guy that the UB forward that we're just lucky to have. Quality banter, quality human being, and just we still tell stories about him in the locker room. So I'm taking Unwin.
And Stedman wears a 69 jersey, so you got to put him up top. All right, at least I would.
Yeah, he's another option coming off the bench for me.
Stedman, I didn't get to see a lot of him for FC Buffalo, but I would just say on his day, Matt Stedman's one of the best players I've ever seen play soccer. He was on another level when he was at Niagara. He was a phenomenal number 9. So I'd give a shout out to him regardless of whether he was great for FC Buffalo or not.
It's funny that you that you mentioned a Big Four school, because that's the next task for you guys, is to rank in terms of how you think each team will finish next year, the Big Four schools. Ooh. And just to give you guys a little bit of time to think, I'll run through a little bit about each one. I think we'll start with St. Bonaventure in the A10. Brand new coaching staff. You have Kwame Oduro at the helm, coming over from Canisius with Ryan Arvin in there. There are some familiar players from FC Buffalo going over. Joshua Bishaw is a player, I think Stephen Carcatero graduated.
Yep.
But there's a handful of other guys, but it's going to be a lot of new faces that this new staff is bringing in. Going over to Niagara, it's kind of a do-or-die year for Eric Barnes, who's, I believe, in his third year there now. Mm-hmm. He is blessed with some talent, though. You see Nanu Ferguson and Andrew Ferguson, two guys who've seen a lot of time for FC Buffalo this year. Also, Julian Akizi, I'm not sure if he's going back to Niagara.
Nah, he's transferring. Steve Casey's in that,
Steve Casey in that, yep, that's another one, too. And then going over to Canisius, Dermot McGrain's team has produced some very good players. You see Asani Samuels playing, continually now getting paid to play. Canisius brought in a lot of talent last year, but it didn't necessarily all gel super well. But you have guys like Thomas Toypin, Ryan Schrain, who's back again for his final year of eligibility. You have Nico Baudo, who's a tremendous player. You have Alex DeCarolis, who might be one of the better outside backs in the MAC. Mm-hmm. And then finally, UB under Stu Riddle. And obviously, Russ Cicerone is the big name there, a guy who has a legitimate chance to play in the MLS, I think, who's just been tearing it up this summer for the Michigan Bucks. And around him, you have some question marks, but you have Scott Doney for FC Buffalo, who had a little while.
Big target.
Yeah, big target. And there's some talent in there.
Good feet, hard man too.
Mm-hmm. You saw Stu Riddle bring in a guy from Real Madrid's academy, and they have a couple players from last year who maybe didn't see a ton of time, but there's a guy from Shattuck St. Mary's, and you just see a lot of development in year 2 for a lot of these guys. But it's also put up or shut up time for UB. Is they've had a couple down years and they've been really retooling, but the results really need to come soon. So this ends my soliloquy and kind of goes to you guys as far as where you think these Big Four teams stand right now.
A big part of it really is going to be the recruits brought in, especially at Bonaventure and at Niagara. There's a few guys with some big reputations coming into UB. Canisius has been a little more tight-lipped about who they have coming in. They got, obviously, Shane Green from Hamburg will be in for them. But it really depends on who Barnes brings in and who Kwame gets to bring in. I've seen the list. There's a few MLS Academy players from Kansas City coming in for Niagara. Kwame has a big class coming in. He had a big class to replace there. It also, you look at Canisius, and I think about, they do have a good core coming back, but Asani is gone. Mayer is gone. That's about 12 goals, 12, 13 goals they lost last year, or that they'll lose this year. They do probably have the most quality coming back. So I personally would have Canisius having the most success, and that's down to some of the guys you mentioned. Coughlin in the back is going to be looking for like an all-MAC selection this year. Typin is very good. D. Carolus is coming off a summer with Seattle Sounders U23. Next to Cicerone, a guy who might be the second best player in the Big Four is a kid from Germany named Mo Kretschmer for Canisius. He is an excellent center midfielder. He is he's got a ton of quality. He can do it all. I love watching Kretschmer. Baudo is good. So I would say Canisius probably is in the mix for the best year. I'd put UB second. If UB gets something out of the Real Madrid winger and the transfer from Butler, they'll be in real good shape. Cicerone is going to have a huge year for them. Fox should I could see Fox being a captain for them. He's having a great year. Hogg has had a good summer with us. So I think Canisius UB fight for those first two spots. I think Niagara and Bana are in the 3-4 spot, and a lot of that is because who are they bringing in? What's the quality? Niagara's going to have to bring in some quality. I love Kieran Tolan on Bonaventure, Scottish center midfielder, another kid to watch out for. Bishaw's had an excellent summer for us, coming off a big shoulder injury. He has maybe been our most improved player, and that's not just from the staff. Other players have even mentioned that to us. So I'm pulling for Josh this year to have a big year and contribute for them. So that's probably where I'm at with the Big Four.
Scott, any Big Four feedback?
Just echo what Bobby said. I think Niagara and Bonaventure are 3-4. You can flip them either way. It's a fight between UB and Canisius. Each team has some good-looking players. UB's got the advantage of I don't want to say an easy out-of-conference schedule because obviously they've got to pull results out of it. But looking at their schedule, you see a lot of wins on there for them. I like what Bobby said. I really like the spine of the team now, especially with Fox and Cam spending the summer together, and those guys just read each other's minds. The communication's so great. Canisius has answers. A big center back. Good center midfielder, a fantastic goalkeeper, and it's just who's going to grind it out, who's going to find wins. I don't want to pat ourselves on the back, but the guys that are spending the summer with us, we really feel confident that they're going to go home to their schools and be difference makers this summer. So, that's what we're looking for, and we look forward to going out and watching them.
Mm-hmm. Just to close this show, then, we only have about a couple minutes left, maybe 2 minutes left, I'd say. We want to talk about a little bit of English Premier League action, and I think we'll start with Raheem Sterling leaving Liverpool and going to Manchester City for quite a big sum of money. I think not as big of a sum as some were suggesting a while. I saw some just outrageous numbers that he might have been sold for. But Bobby, as a Liverpool fan, do you really rue Raheem Sterling leaving?
I don't. I think that Raheem Sterling is a wonderful young talent. I think that the English media tends to blow guys up a little bit too early, and I think he can fall into that category. He has great pace. He's technically very sound. That being said, you get an offer for around $75 million US on a guy who's about 21 years old that wants 200,000 pounds a week, you take it. Sterling, there's an argument from the anti-Sterling crowd that he benefited from a team that was built on the counterattack with Luis Suarez and Daniel Sturridge. With Sturridge injured much of last year and Suarez sold, what do we see from Sterling? Not a lot. He is not a number 9. He's a winger, and he's not a great finisher. I think if you're Liverpool, you take the $75 million every day. That being said, he's going to ask for 200,000 pounds when Brendan Rodgers says he's the best young talent, the best young player in Europe. So there's a little bit of a conundrum there. I think the gaffer's got to look at himself in the mirror on that one a bit.
As a fellow Liverpool supporter, by the way, I echo his sentiments, and to me, he was just becoming a headache, and I'm just kind of glad that it's all over. A little bit.
Yeah.
I didn't really want him going to Manchester City, I guess, but
well,
I share your sentiments that he wasn't a huge part of the plan, I think, going forward, and I'm just kind of glad that it's over. Yeah,
it is. And I just saw an article before that there's going to be a big bid for Marco Reus. That's not happening. It's if anything, they might go for a center back. I think their spending is done. Royce is never going to come to Liverpool. If he leaves anywhere, he's possibly a Munich, Barcelona, Real Madrid, Manchester United player. He's not coming to not play Champions League football. Sadly, I'll even admit that about my club.
That wraps us up. Thank you for joining us here on the FC Buffalo Show. Again, 7 p.m. on Friday, the season finale for FC Buffalo, regular season finale, I should say, for FC Buffalo. Huge playoff implications on the line. 7 o'clock, All High Stadium. Scott looks like he wants to say something.
Don't be a joker and miss that because you're going to regret it.
Thank you to assistant coach Bob Roach and co-owner Scott Frauenhofer.
Thank you to you, Ben.
Thanks, Ben.
I'm Ben Tsujimoto and Joe DiBiase, and thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.
Yep, and the show, just so everyone knows, will be posted on YouTube like it was a few weeks ago. We'll post that link later on tonight. Thank you for joining us on 91.3 FM WBNY.
All right.